We recently published an interesting article on EBNet talking about the role custodian banks play in investment administration. And I'm joined today by its author, Adam Bateman, who's the Head of Business Development and Strategic Partnerships at Standard Bank Investor Services. Adam, welcome to the channel.
How's it, Chris? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, Adam, tell me, how does all of this work?
So, Chris, custodians import custody data into an investment accounting platform. They then value the assets and perform income and expense accruals that are completely independent from the asset manager and standardized across all of the investment portfolios to produce an investment accounting book of record. This book of record is then reconciled back to the cash and securities that sit with the custodian, and then on a daily, weekly, or more commonly on a monthly basis to the asset manager records. Once this accounting book of record has been fully reconciled and is checked for accuracy, the custodians will then produce a number of other value-add investment administration services, things like compliance monitoring against the mandates that have been assigned to the asset managers, Regulation 28 reporting, bond duration reporting, effective exposure reporting, and performance and risk reporting.
Thanks, Adam. That's interesting. So how's this different to a non-custody driven model?
So, Chris, it streamlines the process and achieves a high level of integrity by constructing an accounting book of record that's independent from the asset managers and applying a single accounting framework across all of the investment portfolios. And what I mean by that, Chris, is each manager will have its own systems, its own accounting frameworks, and in some cases, valuation policies that'll differ from manager to manager. And by having a single provider constructing this accounting book of record, you're able to achieve a consistent accounting treatment across the entire investment portfolio. And you can imagine this becomes a lot more complex as the pension funds adds managers, as is the case in South Africa. You would know that we have some funds that have upwards of 60 different investment managers.
Thanks, Adam. So does the bank have to be the custodian for the retirement fund to be able to take advantage of these services?
So, Chris, in South Africa, typically the banks act as the local custodian when providing these services. However, on the international portfolio, it's quite common for the banks to work with global custodians. And I guess the important concept here is that even when a global custodian or another bank's involved, the information is still custody driven. The data is taken from a custody system from an international bank to complete the investment accounting book of record that is once again independent from the asset managers.
Adam, tell me, are these services available to all retirement funds?
Chris, in South Africa, the custodians usually target the medium to larger pension funds, and those are the funds that have an asset size of plus minus about 2 billion rand or greater.
I understand. So I just never really thought about the banks playing in this space.
Well, Chris, if you look overseas, you'll see the banks, specifically the global custodian banks, have been providing investment administration services for the past 50 years. And it's to the point to where these custody-driven models for these services are now considered global best practices in places like the US, the UK, and Europe. In South Africa, custody-driven models for investment administration took off in the early 2000s, shortly after the dematerialization of our share market.
Oh, I didn't know that. So, Adam, is this big business for Standard Bank?
Yes, it is, Chris. We currently support approximately 3.3 trillion rand in assets under administration. We provide these services not only to retirement funds, but also to life assurance companies, short-term insurers, and medical aid schemes in South Africa and another 14 markets in sub-Saharan Africa.
Adam, thank you. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'd like us to circle back on this topic maybe in a future session, yes?
That sounds really great. Thank you, Chris. Looking forward to it.
My pleasure.
you.